chosen one. There is something happening around you right now that you have not been told about yet. Not in a vague or general sense. With precision, with specificity, with a timing that makes what you are experiencing in this exact season feel not like coincidence, not like another delay, not like something gone wrong, but like a moment that has been exactly positioned. Before we continue, I want to name three things that may be true for you right now. Not because I am guessing, because the person who is present at this exact moment tends to be living inside all three simultaneously. First, you have been feeling an urgency you cannot explain, not anxiety, though it resembles it on the surface, something different from anxiety, a pressure that does not feel like fear. A quiet, persistent signal, like a phone buzzing inside a drawer that no one can hear except you. You feel it most in the margins of your day, when you first wake up, when the house goes still, when you stop moving long enough for the external noise to drop below a certain threshold. It has been there for a while. You have been moving fast enough not to sit with it fully. Second, you have been receiving signals and missing them, not because you are spiritually undeveloped, not because God has gone silent, because the volume of everything competing for your attention has been turned up so high that the frequency of what matters most is getting lost in the interference. You have had impressions lately that you moved past, moments that felt significant and then got buried under the next task, the next demand, the next distraction. You have had thoughts arise in the quiet that you did not stop to examine fully because something else required your attention before you could hold them. Third, something is close. You feel it beneath the tired, beneath the frustrated, beneath the part of you that has been wondering how much longer. A signal that this is not a permanent condition, that the season you are in has an edge and you are approaching it. Not wishful thinking, something that sits beneath the wishful thinking, older than the hoping, steadier than the doubt. If those three things are true for you, then I need you to understand something before we go any further. What is about to arrive in your life cannot be received on a distracted frequency. You have been moving too fast, and the message that changes everything has been trying to reach you while the noise was turned all the way up. This message exists for one reason, not only to encourage you, though it will, not only to confirm what you already sense, though it will do that. This message exists because there is an update, a specific and urgent update from the one who designed your life that has been trying to land in your atmosphere. And the reason it has not fully arrived yet is not because it was not sent. It is because the moment it was released, everything around you accelerated, the demands multiplied, the internal volume increased, the interference intensified at the exact moment the signal was transmitted. That pattern is not random. I want to name it directly. There is a recognizable pattern among people who are this close to what God has arranged for them. And the pattern is this. The closer someone gets to the moment of arrival, the louder everything else becomes. Not louder because things are actually worse. Louder because something that can read spiritual timing knows what is about to be delivered. And the most effective strategy against a person receiving what they were built for is not destruction. It is distraction. Distraction does not fight you. It exhausts you. It tiles your attention across 17 directions simultaneously. It fills every margin of quiet with noise. It arranges circumstances so that the one message you most need to hear arrives in a moment when you are too saturated to hold it properly. And then the window passes, and another one opens later, and the same thing happens again. And slowly, almost without your noticing, you begin to believe the delay is simply the permanent condition of your life. I am saying today, for the person who is here, That is not the permanent condition, and this is not another delay. This is the message that interrupts the pattern. Before we continue, I want you to type in the comment section the number 777, not as a ritual, not as a formula, as a declaration that you are here and you are present and you recognize something in what was just described. If those three things were true, if that urgency, that pattern of missed signals, that sense of something close, if those were you, type 777 and let this moment know you are staying. Now, I want to explain what is actually happening, because the emergency I am describing is not what the word emergency usually implies. Most of what people call emergencies are crises. They are situations where something has gone wrong and the response has to be immediate or the damage compounds. That is one definition of emergency, but it is not the definition that applies here. The word emergency, at its oldest root, means something emerging, something that has been beneath the surface pressing upward, something submerged coming into the light. And the emergency God is issuing right now, for the chosen one who is here, is the emergence of what they have been waiting for. The arrival is imminent. The thing pressing up through the floor of this season is not a problem. It is the answer, the one that was arranged before the question fully formed. And the reason this requires an emergency posture, the reason the instruction is to stop everything, is not danger. It is timing. What is emerging requires a specific quality of attention in order to be received properly. It cannot be caught while running. It cannot be heard through the noise of a life that has been in perpetual motion. It arrives at the intersection of stillness and readiness, and it will pass through that intersection whether or not you are positioned there to receive it. Stop everything right now. Let me tell you exactly what that looks like. It does not look like panic. It does not look like a frantic scramble to prepare. It does not look like an emergency in the worldly sense. It looks like the opposite. It looks like a deliberate, chosen, intentional stillness. A kind of stopping that is not collapse but positioning. A settling that says, I understand something is arriving, and I'm going to give it my full and undivided attention, because what is about to land is not something I want to receive with half a mind and a distracted heart. That is the instruction. That is the emergency. Stop moving long enough for what has already been sent to actually arrive. Now, I want to hold something in front of you before we continue, because I am going to return to it later in this message, and it will mean more then than it does now. Over the last several years, in research laboratories specifically focused on neuroscience, specifically on the question of how the human brain receives and processes information from sources that are not strictly rational, something has been discovered. A group of neuroscientists, led by a doctor in New York who has spent decades studying this, found something about the design of the human brain that explains why people who are genuinely attuned to spiritual communication are increasingly struggling to receive the signals they were built to receive. Not because the signals are weaker, not because the person's sensitivity has diminished, because the physical receiver, the actual hardware through which divine information is meant to land, has been compromised in a way that most people have never been told about. Something that traces back to research that won the Nobel Prize, yet whose implications for spiritual reception are almost never discussed. I am going to tell you exactly what they found later in this message, but I want you to hold this question now. What if the fog, the sense of being almost there but not landing, the feeling of receiving partial signals without the full transmission, what if that has a specific physical address, and what if that address has a solution? Hold that. We will return to it, because right now I need to tell you about the diagnosis, the actual condition that is creating the block between where you are and where the emergency update is trying to reach you. And to do that, I need to talk about the nature of divine communication and what interrupts it. Here is what most people do not understand about the way God speaks. God does not shout. This is not a character flaw in the divine. It is a design feature. The frequency on which the most important communications travel is not the frequency of the loud. It is not the frequency of the urgent or the anxious or the frantically seeking. It operates on a different register entirely, a register of deep quiet, of settled attention, of a spirit that has stilled itself enough to become more sensitive to subtle transmission. The problem is that the world we live in has been deliberately and systematically structured to make that register almost inaccessible. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning until the moment you close them at night, there is a near constant stream of input designed to occupy every available bandwidth of your attention. 2. Phones, obligations, notifications, relationships, financial pressures, the accumulated weight of unprocessed emotion, and beneath all of that, the low hum of a society that has decided, at every level of its architecture, that a human being sitting in silence is a human being being unproductive. This is not an accident. This is not an unintended side effect of technological progress. This is the designed environment in which the person who was built to receive specific, sacred, directional communication from God is being asked to function. And the result is not a failure of spirituality, it is a systems failure, a hardware problem masquerading as a character problem. You are not spiritually underdeveloped. You are operating a receiver that has been placed inside an environment designed to degrade its function. And the emergency update that God is trying to deliver right now, the specific one that has your name on it, the one that carries in it the next instruction, the next opening, the next piece of what you have been asking about, is being sent on that precise quiet frequency. And the question is not whether it has been transmitted. It has. The question is whether you are going to stop the noise long enough to let it land. There is a specific type of obstacle that operates at the level of the spirit before it ever shows up at the level of circumstance. It is the obstacle that has been most effective against the chosen one across every generation. It is not external pressure. It is not the absence of resources. It is the interruption of reception. The cutting off of the line between the one designed to receive divine communication and the source from which that communication flows. Let me describe how this obstacle works in practical terms, because it does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a life that is simply too full, every hour accounted for, every margin occupied, every moment of potential stillness converted into productivity or consumption or numbing. Not because the person is lazy, because they have been told, through every system they inhabit, that stillness is something you earn after the crisis passes, that the proper response to feeling behind is to move faster, not to slow down and receive. Sometimes it looks like a season of deferred prayer, not abandoned prayer, deferred. The prayers still exist in the heart, but they have moved from an active, expecting, positioned posture to something more like a ledger of unanswered things, a record of what was asked and what has not yet arrived. And when prayer becomes a ledger instead of a conversation, the frequency shifts. It becomes less about receiving and more about tracking. Sometimes it looks like a kind of spiritual numbness that developed slowly across months or years, in response to disappointment that was never fully processed. The emotional register that used to amplify the experience of divine communication went quiet at some point, protective quiet, the kind that develops when hope has been pressed on hard enough, often enough, that something in the system decided it was safer to feel less. I want to name something important here. The numbness is not the person, the distraction is not the person. The deferred posture is not the person. These are responses, protective adaptations to an environment that has been difficult. They are not character flaws. They are not evidence of insufficient faith. They are evidence of a system under pressure. And the emergency update that is trying to reach you right now was designed to land through all of them, not around them. Through them. Because God knows exactly what condition the receiver is in. You do not have to be at full capacity to receive this. You have to be present. You have to stop long enough to let it arrive. Now, let me tell you about the pattern I see across every person in Scripture and across every person I have watched come through a season like the one you are in. The pattern is this. The emergency update never arrives in the noise. It arrives in the moment after the noise drops. Not because God cannot penetrate the noise, because the update is designed to carry something the noise cannot carry. Precision, direction. A quality of communication that does not fragment or blur when it lands. And that kind of communication requires a corresponding quality of reception. A receiver that is clear enough to hold the full transmission. There was a prophet who had given everything and arrived at total depletion. The tank was empty. The next instruction had not come, and in that moment, the divine response was not a lecture or a correction. It was rest and nourishment. The instruction was that the journey ahead was too great without it. And after the rest came not the answer but the question, not asked with accusation, asked as an invitation to locate oneself honestly. After the stillness, after the repositioning, the still small voice arrived, not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, in the quiet, that none of those things were. That is the pattern. The emergency update arrives after the deliberate stop, not in spite of the depletion, through it. If you are still here, I want to tell you something true about you. Most people do not stay through the harder parts of a message like this, the parts that describe the obstacle honestly before resolving it, the parts that hold the mirror up rather than immediately offering comfort. The person who stays through that is operating from something deeper than passive consumption. That is the posture of someone who genuinely wants the encounter, not just the feeling of one. And I want to give you something practical now, because the action that corresponds to this moment is internal. There are three things that create the conditions for the emergency update to arrive, and they build on each other in order. The first is the decision to stop treating stillness as a reward and start treating it as a tool. Stillness is not something you get to have when everything resolves. It is one of the instruments through which the resolution comes. You do not wait for quiet to happen around you. You create it, you choose it, you protect it with intention, even when everything around you is screaming that there is no margin for it. The second is a return to expectant posture, not performance. Posture, performance, is the activity you do in order to appear ready. Posture is the orientation of your actual inner self toward receiving. Expectant posture says, something is coming. I do not know the precise form, but I am positioned to recognize it when it arrives. It is the orientation of someone who still believes they are a person to whom divine messages are actually sent. The third is the one I am going to detail now, because it is the one most people miss entirely. It is not a spiritual discipline. It is not a practice you add to your existing routine. It operates at the level of the physical receiver itself. And it explains why two people can practice identical spiritual disciplines and have dramatically different experiences of reception. I want to be precise about this, because what I am about to describe is not metaphor. There is a physiological mechanism that determines how clearly the human mind receives information that does not originate in the strictly rational domain. And that mechanism, for most adults living in the modern world, is operating at a fraction of its designed capacity. Not because of spiritual failure, Because of what the modern environment does to the brain over time, in childhood, the research shows 98% of human beings are operating in a state that neuroscientists classify as whole brain activation. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere working in active synchronization. When that synchronization is intact, something becomes available that the desynchronized state cannot produce, a quality of knowing that arrives whole and clear. The kind of receiving that gets called intuition or divine prompting or the still small voice, depending on the tradition you come from. By adulthood, fewer than 1 in 1,000 people maintain it, not because they became less capable, because the accumulated pressure of the modern environment, the fragmentation of attention, the chronic stress, the demand for exclusively analytical function gradually reduced the synchronization without the person's awareness or consent. This is not a spiritual failure, it is a physiological one. And it means that the vast majority of people who are genuinely seeking to receive clear divine communication are doing so with a receiver that has been compromised, not permanently. Dormant things can be reactivated, and when the synchronization is restored, the capacity to receive clearly, to hear the still small voice in the quiet, to feel the directional nudge of divine guidance and trust it, all of that becomes available again, not as something new, as something returned. Now I want to close the loop I opened earlier in this message. Because I told you something had been discovered in research laboratories that explains something most spiritually sensitive people have felt, but have never been able to name. And I want to tell you now why I waited until this moment to bring it forward. Because what they found is not information. What they found is a solution, and a solution only becomes meaningful once you understand the full shape of the problem it solves. You now understand the shape. That solution is what I am going to describe next, and I want you to understand why it matters for the emergency update specifically. Because the update that God is trying to deliver is not waiting for you to become more spiritual. It is waiting for the receiver to be clear enough to hold the full transmission without distortion. And what was discovered by a team that spent years compressing clinical-grade neurological restoration into an 8-minute daily practice is that the path to that clarity is more accessible than you have been told. I will describe it fully in a moment. First, I need to tell you what happens in the third phase, the phase after the stopping, after the receiver begins to clear. There is a specific kind of quiet that becomes available to the person who has done these things. Not the quiet of emptiness, the quiet of preparation, of a container that has been cleaned and positioned and is now able to hold what was always meant to fill it. And the chosen one who arrives at that quiet, who has done the work of stopping and positioning and clearing the receiver, does not stay there waiting indefinitely. Something arrives to fill it. I have watched this pattern operate in enough lives to know what it looks like when it begins, and it always begins the same way, not with a dramatic sign, with a deepening of the signal. The impressions become clearer. The sense of direction becomes less ambiguous. The prompts that were fragmented and partial begin to arrive whole. The voice that was filtered through noise becomes audible beneath it, and the person begins to understand, for the first time in a long time, exactly what the next step is. Not every step, the next one. And that is always enough. The emergency update is not a 10-year plan delivered in a single session. It is the next instruction, the next opening, the next assignment. And when it arrives clearly, when it lands in a receiver that is prepared to hold it without distortion, the person who receives it can act on it with a confidence they have not felt in a long time. Because the confidence does not come from certainty about the future, it comes from clarity about the present moment. about what is being asked right now. Type in the comments, "I receive," if you are ready for that, not if you feel fully prepared. If you are willing to be positioned, that is the only requirement. Here is what you now know that you did not know when this message began. The fog you have been experiencing is not a spiritual verdict. It is a physiological condition with a specific name and a documented mechanism. The whole brain synchronized state that was the default condition of your mind in childhood has been gradually reduced by the cumulative pressure of the modern environment. Not because you failed, because something was systematically taken from you. And the receiving capacity you need in order to hold the emergency update clearly, the clarity of reception that makes divine communication land whole rather than fragmented, is not gone. It is dormant. And dormant things can be reactivated. The identity that connects all of this is this: you are not a spiritually underdeveloped person struggling to receive what God is offering. You are a fully designed receiver operating in a compromised state, and the path back to full capacity is specific and accessible. That is who you are in this moment. That is the accurate diagnosis. And what I am about to describe is the tool that addresses that diagnosis directly. A woman from California described what it felt like before she found this. She had tried everything: prayer, journaling, meditation, every practice her community offered. She kept arriving at the same experience. She believed the words. She could not feel the reality behind them, not in her body, not in the lived texture of her days. She said, after 10 days, something cleared. A channel that had been blocked was suddenly open, not because she tried harder, because the receiver had been repaired. A man from Texas described something similar, someone who had spent years holding things together for everyone around him, while his own interior life became thin and distant. Prayer had started to feel like reaching into silence. The frequency was right, but the receiver was off. 2 weeks later, he described his mind as running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so consistent, he had stopped registering it as fog was gone. That is because of what the team I am about to describe discovered. A team of neuroscientists led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York spent years doing the following. They took more than an hour of clinical neural synchronization technology, the kind of whole brain activation protocol used in specialized medical settings, and through an intensive compression and refinement process, they turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day, headphones in, eyes closed. That is the entirety of the physical requirement. They call it the genius switch. It is not a brainwave product. It is not a meditation app. It is not a sound frequency designed to put you in a particular mood. It is a targeted auditory sequence specifically engineered based on the Nobel Prize research of Dr. Roger Sperry to reconnect the two hemispheres and restore the whole brain activation that was the default state in childhood. The state in which reception is clearest. The state in which the still, small voice arrives whole, not fragmented. The state in which the emergency update your life has been preparing you for can actually land in the way it was designed to land. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that God prepared not only the promise, but the mind that must walk into it. The person who has been sincere for years, who has done the work, who has felt the call clearly and kept returning to it even when the evidence was not cooperating, and who is willing to stop treating the fog as a character flaw and start treating it as something that has a specific address. Most people who hear about this will move past it. They have accepted the reduced version of their mind as permanent. You are still here. That is not coincidence. That is the specific kind of persistence that belongs to the person this was built for. If you have used sound-based wellness products before and found them underwhelming, Dr. Barone addresses this directly. What his team built targets hemisphere synchronization at the whole brain level using a multi-layer protocol developed from years of clinical refinement. That is a different mechanism, and it produces a different category of result. His colleagues suggested this would be incredible value, even at $500. In-person neurofeedback costs $300 per hour. A home machine costs $7,000. The Genius Switch was released at $49. On this page today, there is an additional $10 off, $39, backed by a complete money-back guarantee. Listen once, listen 80 times. If it does not do what it has done for 18,000 people, every dollar is returned with no conditions. Included with the $39 access are 4 bonuses. A guided visualization from a top-rated creator on the Calm platform, covering money, love, health, and happiness. A grocery guide identifying the 10 common foods that contribute to brain fog, with 5 shortcuts that save over $100 monthly. A classic manifestation text, more than a century old, that is the root source of most modern approaches to this subject. And a printable habits guide for creating the conditions of an ideal future. Every week the synchronization stays disrupted is another week the offer God has arranged moves through a receiver operating below its designed capacity. Not because the offer is withdrawn, because the depth of reception determines the depth of the arrival. What is coming deserves the full version of you. One thing worth naming directly: if you search for anything that sounds similar to this, you will find products with similar names. The team Dr. Barone leads studied them. Most had no neural synchronization technology embedded at all. They carried the descriptive name because the barrier to doing so is essentially zero. The mechanism is what makes the difference, and the mechanism only exists in what his team built. The direct page, linked in the description below and in the pinned comment, is the only verified source. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link in the description below and in the pinned comment points to where Dr. Barone and his team made it available. Not anywhere else. You can read everything on their page before making any decision. Every detail is laid out clearly. The tool does not replace God. The tool does not replace the work of faith that is happening in you. It does not surrender for you. It does not close the open door for you. What God is doing in you is not conditional on any tool, but a tool that restores the receiver, gives what God is doing more of what it was designed to land in. That is the relationship. And now we return to what this message has been building toward. For the chosen one who felt something stir when the mind was mentioned earlier, that door is still open in the description. It is a small step, but small steps taken from a clear mind have changed entire seasons. Now I want to speak to you about what happens after the update arrives, because there is a tendency in people who have been waiting for a long time to treat the arrival of divine clarity as the end of the story, as if receiving the instruction is the completion of the journey. It is not. It is the beginning of the next chapter. And the next chapter has its own requirements, its own form of courage, its own kind of action. The person who receives the emergency update clearly and then acts on it with the full weight of what they now understand, that is the chosen one in the moment of their appointment, not the polished version, not the fully prepared version, the actual version, the one who is tired and still moving, the one who has doubts and still obeys, the one who cannot see the full picture and still takes the step that has been pointed to. Type I release in the comments if you are ready to let go of the version of this story that was running on incomplete reception, if you are willing to let the update land and to act on what it carries when it does. There is a moment that comes in every significant season, A moment that does not announce itself as the pivot point when it arrives. It arrives looking like another ordinary day, another ordinary choice. And the person who is here right now is in that moment. And the most important thing I can tell you about it is this. The size of what is coming is proportional to the size of what was required to get you here. The season was long because the assignment is large. The preparation was thorough because the task requires thorough preparation. The waiting stretched longer than you expected because what you were being prepared to carry requires a foundation that a shorter formation would not have provided. I want you to understand something about the specific nature of the emergency update that is trying to reach you. It is not one piece of information, it is a sequence. And the sequence works like a set of instructions that only become readable once the first instruction has been received and acted on. This is why the urgency is not about the end destination. It is about the first step, because the second step only becomes visible after the first one is taken. The courage required for the first step of a divine instruction is not the courage of the person who has no fear. It is the courage of the person who has every reason to be uncertain and chooses the step anyway. The person who cannot see the full road, who does not have confirmation that everything will work out in the specific way they have imagined, who is still carrying the weight of the delays and the disappointments of the previous season, and who takes the step that was pointed to, not because the evidence is overwhelming, because the instruction is clear. That clarity, that specific quality of clear direction in the midst of incomplete information is the fruit of a receiver that is functioning at capacity, and it is available to you, not as a distant spiritual ideal, as something accessible in this season through the specific mechanism we have described and through the posture of stopping, positioning, and receiving that this message has been inviting you into. The emergency update has your name on it. It was transmitted before you arrived here. It is in your atmosphere right now, waiting for the conditions of reception to be met. And you are creating those conditions in this moment by choosing to stay, to listen, to position, and to be honest with yourself about what you have been sensing and what you have been avoiding. That is an act of courage. It may not feel like one, but the internal decision to stop, to be present, to let something land that you have been moving too fast to receive, that decision has weight. And the God who watches the chosen one make that decision with a tired heart and a willing spirit does not ignore it. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life. I am going to declare something specific, and I am going to do it not as a performance, but as a genuine act of faith that the one who hears such things is present in this room. But before I do, I need to tell you what happens in the moment just before the emergency update fully arrives. Because it is important to understand, and because it is the thing most people do not expect. The moment just before full clarity arrives often looks, from the inside, like the hardest moment in the season. Not because anything has gone wrong, because the receiver is expanding to hold something larger than what it was accustomed to holding. And when a container expands, it is uncomfortable. The borders stretch, the familiar shape gives way, and the person going through it often interprets the discomfort as evidence that something is wrong, rather than as evidence that something much larger is preparing to arrive. If that is where you are right now, I want you to hear this clearly. The discomfort is not a sign that you missed it. The discomfort is a sign that you are in the exact moment of preparation that precedes the arrival. Stay. I want you to pause with me for a moment before the declaration, not in performance, in genuine recognition of the thing that has carried you this far. There is something in you that did not give up. I have been talking about obstacles and interference and the compromised receiver, and all of that is true. But there is also something true in the other direction. Something in you kept kept coming back, kept returning to the call, kept choosing to believe, even when the evidence was not cooperating, that the call was real and that the one who issued it was faithful. That is not a small thing. That is the thing that is most difficult to maintain across a long season. And it is the thing that most distinguishes the person who receives the emergency update from the person who is still waiting for it. Not spiritual superiority. Persistence. The specific, unglamorous, unwitnessed faithfulness of the person who returns to the thing they were called to, over and over, across the long days and the silent weeks and the months that look nothing like the promise. That is you. Now I want to speak to the thing that was taken, because the emergency update is not only about what is coming, it is also a reclamation of what was lost in the waiting. Every season of formation carries in it a cost. The cost of the years you spent in the preparation that did not look like progress. The cost of the relationships that were clarified through the difficulty. The cost of the dreams that had to be refined before they could be fulfilled. Those costs are not forgotten. They are not overlooked. They are being held by someone who accounts for everything, and the return on them is already in motion. You did not lose those years. You invested them, and the return is not just the fulfillment of the thing you were waiting for. It is the depth of the person you became while waiting, the capacity you developed, the roots that went down during the drought, because things that arrive when the roots are shallow do not stay. Things that arrive when the roots go deep, those things are held by a foundation that the storm cannot move. That is who you are becoming. That is who you already are in the part of your nature that is ahead of your current experience. Let me speak now to what is about to happen in your life, not as a prediction, as a declaration rooted in what I know about the character of the one who makes promises and the kind of person the chosen one is when they have been formed, the way you have been formed. Release this chosen one. Release the version of this story that said the delay was judgment. Release the version that said the silence was abandonment. Release the version that said the waiting meant you were overlooked, or that the call had been reassigned, or that the window had passed before you could reach it. Release the story that the difficulty was permanent. Release the weight of every season you carried that was heavier than you were designed to carry alone. Release the fear that says clarity will not come. Release the doubt that says you will recognize the update when it arrives. Release the grip on the outcome that has been keeping you from being fully present in the process. Release the need to know the full road before taking the next step. Release the part of you that measured your worth by the speed of the arrival. Release it, all of it. Now, let something settle in its place. Let the quiet that this message has been inviting you into become the actual posture of your spirit right now, not the performance of peace, the actual settled thing, the knowing that sits beneath the circumstances, the trust that does not require the evidence to arrive before it decides to rest, the receiver, positioned, open, ready. Now let me declare this. You are the one for whom this season was not a delay, it was a construction project. And the construction is not finished, but the foundation is laid. The foundation that the full weight of what is coming requires. You are the one whose receiver is being restored, who is returning to the whole brain, open channel capacity that was the default state of your childhood mind, who is clearing the fog not through more effort, but through the specific act of restoration that makes reception possible. You are the one about whom it is written that those who wait with the right posture will renew their strength. Not those who perform well enough, those who wait, those who return, those who keep the posture of expectation across the long season. You are the chosen one in the moment of arrival. The update that has been trying to reach you is already in your atmosphere. This was the preparation. The stopping was the preparation. The choosing to stay was the preparation. The receiving posture you have taken in this moment is the open door through which it walks. I am going to seal this now. What has been declared over your life in this moment is real. What has been positioned in your atmosphere is arriving. What was taken from you across the formation season is being returned with interest. What was built in you during the waiting was not wasted. It was exactly what was required. And what is coming is proportional to the depth of the preparation. Gently press the like button on this message, not for me, but so that this reaches someone else who is in the middle of their own long season and needs to hear what you just heard. And if you have someone specific in your life right now, someone who is tired, someone who has been faithful in a season that has not yet resolved, someone who has been carrying the weight of an unanswered call with more grace than they know, share this with them. They need to hear that the update is in their atmosphere too, that the reception is being restored, that the emergency is not danger, it is emergence. The link in the description and in the pinned comment is there for those whose spirit confirmed the message about the receiver, for those who felt the recognition when the research was described, for those who understand, perhaps for the first time, why the fog has been real and where it comes from and what can be done about it. That is all I will say about it here. The rest is on their page. Subscribe to stay connected with the Chosen One community. Thousands of people who are in the same season, who are choosing the same posture, who are waiting with the same quality of expectation, and who are stepping into the arrivals that the formation was always preparing them for. And so it is. Type I am ready in the comments, not as a performance of readiness, as a genuine statement of willingness. I am willing to receive. I am willing to let the update land. I am willing to act on what arrives when it does. That is enough. That has always been enough. I declare over you now, Chosen One, that the season of unclear reception is ending. That what was taken from you at the neural level from the time of your childhood is being restored. That the whole brain, open channel receiving capacity that was the default of your beginning is returning to you. That the fog that has been real, that has cost you, that has filtered and fragmented and delayed is lifting, not eventually. Now, in this moment of stopping, of positioning, of receiving, I declare that the emergency update, the specific one that carries your name and your next instruction and your next opening, is landing right now, in the stillness you have created by choosing to stay, in the receiver that is being restored, in the Chosen One who refused to give up and who is here, tired and willing and positioned to receive what was always meant for them. You are not who the delay tried to tell you that you were. You are not the overlooked one. You are not the one for whom the window passed. You are the one whose formation is completing, whose receiver is being restored, whose update is arriving, whose season is turning. Walk into it.